Today we're going to use the Data Hub to find answers in Football Manager 26. Data is important, and not just from an immersive standpoint, to actually help you understand your team's performance and the way your tactic is performing, or just to understand how your team ranks up with every other team in the league. Data Hub has all the answers that you're looking for. But the problem is, in Football Manager 26, Data Hub is sort of a mess, but hopefully in this video, by the end of this video, you're going to understand how to read the Data Hub and how to find answers that you're looking for. So to find the Data Hub, you have to go back to match day. Another match day, just scroll all the way down. You're going to see Data Hub right under the opposition instructions. Go ahead and click Data Hub. Just give it a few seconds to load. Now, this is what you're going to be greeted with. First of all, Data Hub is divided into 6 or 7 tabs. You have the key findings, which is where you should be spending most of your time before you dive into any other deeper form of data. You also have the last match, the previous game that you just finished playing. You can have data from that game. We have team analysis, we have player analysis, we have formation analysis, goal analysis, and set piece analysis. Now, I'm currently managing Bolton Wanderers. I just got the job really, and we're currently in February. I kind of came in January, so we've sort of done some minor tweaks. We're going to look at all of that inside the Data Hub. And starting with the key findings then, what the key findings shows you is your data analyst in your club is going to go through all the data and present to you firsthand the most important data that you need to be looking at. That is what you're going to find in key findings. So you're going to see the general performance of your team, general performance of the team attacking wise, the performance of the team defensively. You can also see who your top performers are: midfielders, defenders, attackers, and also other defenders that may be creating chances on defending players, all this sort of stuff. For our Bolton Wanderers team, we're sort of mid-table now. We kind of took over when we were in the bottom half of the league, but we're in mid-table now somewhere. So under the general performance, you can just go ahead and click the general performance. It's going to show you, first of all, who is tracking the data. You can go ahead and click the data analyst that is working on it to see his analyzing data ability. Judging player ability is about average and competent. We're in Skybet League 1, so not the very best, but he can do a very good job, I guess. So once you have that information, you can see how the team is playing. You can see their pass completion ratio, tackles, goals conceded. Okay, this is goals per game. And you can also see goals conceded per game. So 0.9 at the moment, conceded 1.0 per game. But that's not very good. It just shows that we have something to improve on. But that is the stats on the surface. In order to find out what is causing most of this, you're going to have to go to all the other data. If you're scoring only less than a goal per game, it means maybe something is wrong with your attacking wise, something is wrong with how you're creating chances. You can use the Data Hub to find out most of that, all this other information. In case you're lost when you click X like that, just go back to match day. It's kind of buggy, and go back to Data Hub, and it's just going to take you back to where you were supposed to be. So we've seen the general performance of the team. We can go back to attacking to see what is actually making us score only 0.9 goals per game. We can see that crossing wise, we're kind of doing slightly above average in crossing. This hexagon means that if you see the green bar, this green bar above it shows that's Bolton Wanderers. Then the yellow bar is currently is every other team in the league. So Bolton, where we have ourselves above in green, it means that we're doing slightly above, better than every other person in the league. So you can see that non-expected penalty goals is 1.3, but we've gone on to score only 0.9. So it means that we're kind of over-exceeding or we're underperforming our XG at the moment. It means that we should be getting more goals. Maybe there's something wrong with quality, or with the way or how quickly we're actually playing the ball. We also see that shots wise, we have 11.5. That is above the yellow mark. So it means that we're shooting more than most teams in the league on average. So that's just telling us that attacking wise, we are doing something, but it's not ending up well. Maybe at some point we're going to get the goals that we need, but so far so good. It shows that we are actually shooting more than most teams in the league. You can also see defending wise how the team is performing, why we're conceding so many goals. So you see that in clean sheets now, this is actually very, very good. But defending wise, we can see the way we're set up. You can see the red zone here. It means that we are conceding more goals than average in the league. We've kept only 7 clean sheets, which is not a lot considering the red mark. The red mark is telling us that other teams in the league are keeping more clean sheets than we are. We are conceding a goal per game, which is kind of average in the league. That's why the mark doesn't really show anything. We can also see that we are allowing a lot more passes against us. So that's what the color code actually means. Where you see that it's green or better than everybody else, where you see that it's turning red, it means that everybody else is kind of better than us. So we're not having a very good number there. Now, each of these key findings are gathered from all the other tabs. So you can go back to the next tab that says the last match. It tells us about the last game that we just finished playing, which was a game against MK Dons. You can go back to the player statistics to see how everybody went on to perform. It just shows you the results from the last match. There's not too much information here that you did not already see in the last game that you went on to play. But in case you want to go deeper, you can look at key statistics. You can look at the passing, everybody else that had good passing and passing completion ratio, attacking and crossing completion ratio. You can see the players that were attacking, players that made runs, fouls against, players that completed dribbles. A frustrating thing here that I've noticed is that you can't really filter it by best rankings, so it's just for nothing. I don't really know why this option is in here. So you can't really filter, you just have to just scroll through with your eyes. Onto the team analytics then, you can see the way your team is performing. This is just for your own team in comparison to all the other teams in the league. It's going to show you a list of visuals, mostly scatter diagrams and charts like this. What do you call this? Hexagonal charts. And also bar charts as well. But in case you want to choose which visuals you want to see, you can go to the right here and then go ahead and select it and then choose either general, defensive, creating chances. Creating is like attacking, then scoring. They kind of split attacking into creating and scoring. So almost like defense, midfield, attack. Let's put it like that. Then ball possession, of course, goalkeeping. If you go ahead and click the arrow down, you can see the general. There's general output, general performance. You can also see aerial, general, or you can just click general for general. It's going to show you all the stats based for general. That is how you go about using the visuals. In case you're not sure, just uncheck all the options. It's going to show you all the information that you need to see. This is just if you want to filter it by positions, either defense, midfield, or attack. So starting with the visuals for everybody then, we have the leagues defending. You can see it as a scatter diagram. There's something really important in this screen that you need to notice. The scatter diagram is kind of confusing. You have to read the top 4 quadrants here. It's divided into 4 quadrants. The first top left quadrant here is for the teams that have a lot of blocks and fewer clearances. This may be teams that defend in low blocks. The top right corner here is lots of blocks and lots of clearances. So these are teams that defend in low blocks and actually make clearances. The bottom left show you teams that make fewer blocks and fewer clearances. A lot of teams are in this category, and then there are fewer teams in fewer blocks and lots of clearances. Now remember, teams in the fewer blocks and fewer clearances category will likely be teams that play high pressing, so they don't really need to make blocks or clearances. They're usually the ones in possession. So even though the team is showing you red, it's actually a green situation. Lots of blocks and lots of clearances are teams that are defending in low blocks and having to clear the ball a lot. Maybe they're doing well clearing the ball. Like I mentioned, these guys are the low block guys that are not making a lot of clearances. To have a lot more information, you have to go over to the team logo like this, and it's going to show you clearances and blocks. You can see that Bristol Rovers are making clearances by 11.6 per game, and they're making blocks like 5.34 per game. Compared to Millwall are making 10 clearances and 5. So Bristol Rovers are making a lot more clearances, while Millwall, even though it's few numbers less, they are not making as much clearances. That's why they're in this top left corner here. If we go over to us in the bottom, because we're playing a sort of high pressing system, is about 10.46. We don't really make a lot of blocks. That's why we are in this category. But it's important that you hover over the team's logo like this to show you what the number of clearances is. Like for us now, 10.46, and most blocks is like 3.57. That is how you go about reading the scatter diagram. It's the same for defensive efficiency and scoring. You can go ahead and click scoring and see the teams that are scoring the most. You can see high scoring, high non-penalty expected goals. Plymouth are one of the best teams in the league at the moment. They are not scoring a lot of goals from penalties. That's why they're in this category. You can see low non-penalty expected goals. There's really nobody here except Bristol City. But teams in this category will be likely teams that score a lot of goals from penalties, which is rare. It's why there are not so many people here. But low scoring and low non-expected penalty XG are the weaker teams that are not very good. They're not making a lot of chances. You can look at how Shrewsbury is. 0.95 for non-expected penalty goals, and they're scoring only 0.66 per game, which is not very good. Us, on the other hand, we have low scoring, but we have high non-expected penalty goals. What this means for me is, as much as we're creating chances, at some point we'll get to score goals. I just made a few changes to the tactics recently since I took over the club, and we might eventually start scoring goals, but that's where we are right now. 1.33 non-expected penalty goals, but we are scoring 0.94. Remember, we saw this in the first key findings. So this is something that the data analyst went on to pull out and give it to us in key findings. But in case you want to go deeper, you can find it in here. We've looked at the scatter chart and the hexagonal chart. Bar chart is quite different. It's passes attempted. You can see where you have most of your passes. Most of our passes are in the central area. If we were to play a very high line with a very high press, we will have most of our passes in here. If we were to hold possession in the opposition's third, we may have most of our passes here. If we're playing the low block, we'll have most of our passes here, especially if we play out from the back very slowly. But most of the passes obviously happen in the midfield anyway. This is just showing you the team analytics. There's also player analytics that is very similar to team analytics, but because there used to be a lot of scattered diagrams for this one, just like in team analytics, you can also pick visuals. You can choose to see those creating the most chances. You can choose to see pass progression, set piece efficiency. Most of these are individual players, so you can see the crossing for midfielders. In case it gets a lot, that's why we usually have the options for key findings, just to see what is most important. You can go ahead and uncheck that option. It just shows you what is most important. We have our assisting defenders. You can see that Rio Adebisi is one of the players that is making 2.5 key passes per 90, but his open play assist is 0.33, quite small, but it's worth improving on. He's in the top category here. Players that are in this category do not make a lot of assists. You can see 0.00 expected assists for Elliot Moore. By the way, this is highlighting most of our players for us. The opponent's players, you have to hover on them to see their name and stats, which I think at the beginning I kind of was worried that this is going to be a problem. But the fact that Football Manager made it this way, it kind of looks better now. The opposition players have their heads alone. You have to just hover on them, while our players have their head and names. Or you can go ahead and just click your mouse on them, and then you can go ahead and see. Okay, don't click, just hover your mouse. You can see their stats. Key pass is 1.96 for Josh Dacres Cogley, 0.23 expected assist. That just shows you who our creative players are, and you can go ahead and give them more chances, or maybe put them in more strategic positions to help them do a bit more with the ball. Formation analysis is another tab that you want to look at, and I think it's one of the most important tabs. It's split into two categories: formation that you use and formation that you go ahead to play against. Formation that you use is also going to show you two: in possession formation and out of possession formation. I recently changed to a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-4-2 DM wide. You can see from the list that Bolton Wanderers were using a 5-2-1-2 system, about 67% of that system. Again, like in others, you can't really filter this by the highest to the lowest. It's just there for fancy. So 67% for 5.212, and if you look at the other one, is 5-2-2-1 DM as the out of possession shape. So this is what they were doing before. That wasn't working. They were conceding about 48 chances against them. They were also creating about 78, which was quite good, but it didn't really help them because they're in the lower half of the table. So we wanted to change it. So for about 13% of our matches now, we have started with 4-2-3-1 and 4-4-2 DM wide. We've only conceded 3 chances. It's not a lot really. It could be improved, to be honest. Formations faced are the amount of formations that the opposition is currently using in the league. You can see by the highest amount, 21% or 21.5% goes to the 4-2-3-1, and then 5-3-2. These are the two main systems that most of the teams in the league are currently using. If we scroll all the way down, nobody else is really using other systems. I think the closest is the 4-3-3. However, out of possession, the formations that we'll be facing out of possession most of them is the 5-3-2 system. That is the defensive shape that they prefer. If you scroll all the way down, the closest is the 4-4-2 DM, which is 18%. So this is, about 18% of teams are going to go about using this system. So this just gives you an idea of what the opposition is about to play. And you can also look at that in the opposition instructions or oppositions tab to see how they're going to set up. But remember, if you have your corner set to near post, this is going to affect your set piece efficiency. So in case you have it on mixed crossing, that's very good. You can go ahead and see which one is best, and then after you've done the mixed crossing and have the data hub to show you what is best, you then switch to a more specific corner, either you want it to be far post or near post. We can also see goals from set pieces in comparison with all the other teams. You can see where we are. We have low expected goals or low number of set piece goals, and we have a high number of set piece goals conceded, which is confusing because you see that we have 3 set piece goals and we've conceded 1 set piece goal. So it's kind of showing us in the wrong category. So you have to just read it by yourself and see what they actually mean. They have high number of set piece goals here. Set piece goals that they've actually scored are up to 11. Millwall, which is strange because I think Millwall has conceded more set piece goals than most of the other teams, but we never really know. Set piece goals against about 3. So you have to just read the script by yourself and then see what this inscription is actually saying. Sometimes it can get confusing like that. The bottom corner here is low number of set piece goals and low number of set piece goals conceded. So there's not much drama for these teams by set pieces. You can see that they have set piece goals against 7 of them. Maybe they've scored 7 goals from set pieces, and they have 2 of those set piece goals have been conceded, which is quite a good number, but somehow the game just scatters them into the red category. But those are each of the tabs that you can go about reading inside the data hub. It may be confusing at first, but when you go ahead and click it as often as you can, just spend a bit of time in here. After you've played like 5 or 10 games in the league, come back into the data hub and look at what is happening, see how your tactic is performing, see if you have the results that you're looking for. If you do not, you can go ahead and tweak something and use the information from the data hub to actually guide your tweaking of your tactic. Like I mentioned in set pieces, if you've gone on with mixed set pieces and then you notice that your players are not getting the header on the near post or on the far post, like most of your headers are coming from the central areas, you can tell your set piece routine or change your set piece routine to cross it to the center, knowing that most of your players will head the ball if they're in the center. So that is just how you go about using Data Hub to find answers to your system in Football Manager, find answers to how your team is performing, to find answers to how your tactic is performing as well. If you do have any more questions about Data Hub, do let me know in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video.